The sudden death of actor Matthew Perry. Perry passed away at the age of 54 after an apparent drowning in a hot tub at his home in L.A. Perry is known for several roles throughout his career, but none are more popular than his portrayal of Chandler Bing on Friends.
Hold on. There's something different.
I went to that tanning place your wife suggested.
Was that place The Sun?
Friends was a huge hit in the 90s and recently became popular again when reruns started airing during COVID. And Chandler always had everybody laughing.
What are you doing?
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I remembered it. The champagne is here.
Christina Coleman is outside the late actor's home in L.A., where fans have been stopping by all day. Christina, to you.
Hi, yeah, just hearing those clips, he was so funny, so witty and smart. People just loved his comedy. We are live in front of his home here in the Pacific Palisades near Malibu. People have been dropping by all day, his fans coming and bringing flowers, just paying tribute to this actor, just such a TV icon. And take a look at this video. This video is from TMZ. It shows Perry's parents arriving at his house. His family says they are heartbroken by the tragic loss of their beloved son and brother, and that Matthew brought so much joy to the world, both as an actor and friend. His cause of death has not been determined, although he is most known for his fun-loving, witty role as Chandler on Friends. He was also known for using his platform to draw awareness to how tough it is to battle addiction. He struggled with it. He really, really did, and he detailed all of this in his memoir. Take a listen.
The best thing about me, bar none, is if somebody comes up to me and says, I can't stop drinking, can you help me? I can say yes and follow up and do it. When I die, I don't want Friends to be the first thing that's mentioned. I want that to be the first thing that's mentioned.
It's powerful to hear him say that. TMZ also obtained video of the coroner arriving at Perry's house. They report that his assistant found him unresponsive yesterday here at his home in the jacuzzi, several hours after Perry finished a 2-hour match of pickleball. TMZ also reports that first responders did not find any illegal drugs at this house, but they did find numerous prescriptions, including antidepressants and drugs to help with anxiety and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. His cause of death has not been determined. Many fans say they're both heartbroken by Perry's sudden loss and also grateful that he helped so many people coping with addiction.
We just saw all the positivity projected on the camera, and then later we saw all the positivity projected by showing the struggle he's been going through.
Other people out there that are going through the same thing, they know, like, they're not alone. They're not the only ones, and they can maybe reach out for help as well.
Again, authorities have not determined a cause of death in this case. They do not suspect any foul play, and LAPD is still investigating. Back to you.
Christina Coleman, thank you. Just 5 days ago, Perry posted an eerie photo on Instagram showing him relaxing in a hot tub at his home. It was his last post before his death. Let's bring in Daily Mail reporter Caitlin Becker. Caitlin, thanks for joining us. I just want to get your thoughts right now. He noted that he wanted to be remembered as someone who helped those with addiction, something he understood because he suffered with it himself.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are really talking about the good work he has done throughout his life. Even in between his relapses, he worked hard to help the sober community and those who are also recovering. He sold his Malibu home years ago and created Perry House, which was a sober living facility for men. He since sold that, I think, in 2015. But he really did dedicate his life to not only bringing joy to fans, but to being honest about the hardships he had in his own life, and even saying, I might not be able to do it for myself, but I will help you if you ask for it.
Hey, Caitlin, this is Charlie Hurt. Thank you for this reporting. Can you describe for us what's the scene has been like outside of his house, and what the sort of reaction from normal people, regular people, has been?
Yeah, with any celebrity death like this, we usually see a bit of chaos outside of the house. The house was surrounded by police tape. Police had to set up a little bit of a barricade to make sure that journalists and kind of looky-loos weren't trying to get across it. Perry's family, his mom, his stepdad, also showed up on the scene late last night. They, of course, were gained entry into the house. And it was sad. I mean, neighbors came outside. There were fans who've showed up, and everyone is shocked. And that seems to be kind of par for the course, both for people in the community who knew him and also for fans. Everyone is shocked. Everyone is saddened. And DailyMail.com spoke to a good friend of Matthew's from the sober community, and they said that among their circle, they were just devastated and crying. And our source who had spoken to him within the last few weeks said that in their last conversation, he seemed positive, he seemed upbeat, and most importantly, he sounded sober. So it just seems at this point like this tragedy happened when he was really on an upswing in his life.
Caitlin, Lisa Booth here. I was reading a quote that he said, and he said, "It is very odd to live in a world where if you died, it would shock people but surprise no one." He first became addicted in 1997 to painkillers. Talk a little bit about that struggle. He was obviously open with it. He wanted to try to encourage other people to not go down that path. So I do think it's important to discuss.
Absolutely. His addiction to painkillers began in '97 after a jet ski accident, but he had said that prior to that, it was when he was about 21 years old that he realized he had a problem with alcoholism. Throughout his life, he had been in and out of rehab something like 15 to 17 times. At one point, he writes in his book that he was taking 55 Vicodin in a single day while working on Friends and still showing up and delivering his lines. Fans of the show will, of course, remember watching his character, who is beloved, but throughout the season, you see drastic physical changes with him, and those often coincided with where he was in the throes of his addiction. And that was really challenging for him. He never married, he never had children, and he has said in his book and in several interviews before that his addiction was a reason for his loneliness, and that now he had hoped that in his 50s he would have been able to find someone and get married because he wanted to be a father. So I think this is something that everyone who is a fan or not a fan, knows the show, doesn't know the show, but we all know someone who has been impacted by opioid addiction, whether it is a friend, ourselves, or within our own family. So people can relate to this. They can relate to this loss. And I think that is really pointing to that statement that he made, that people will maybe be surprised and not shocked, or shocked and not surprised. When you are someone who has so publicly dealt with these struggles throughout your entire life, people's first thought is that perhaps it could be opioids or the addiction, but we have no proof or no reporting and nothing from the cops to say something to that effect.
It takes such a toll on the heart and on the body as well. Caitlin Becker, thank you so much for your insights tonight. You know, there's also been a lot of reporting about just how kind he was in life, funny and kind. And Jason, you have a little bit of a personal story about this.
Well, my wife and I, look, we were huge fans of the show Friends. When it was happening in real time, we were watching it all the time. He's made some good movies. Fools Rush In. We've watched that, I don't know, dozens of times along the way. We also happen to have a good friend, a very good friend of ours, who was a writer or producer on more than 100 shows of Friends. And every time we ever talked to him, if something came up about Friends, he had nothing but good things, fun things, positive things to say about Matthew Perry. He really did like the guy, was still working with him, still communicated with him. I sent him a note today just saying, you know, there's so many people that were touched by him in a positive way. He did so many things that put smiles on people's face. And it's good to know kind of behind the scenes, even though he's going through all these struggles and all these tough things, that he was, at his heart, I think, a really good person. You can't say that about everybody in Hollywood, but this guy would seem to be a really good person. And it's sad that he had to fight through this and that he passes away at such a young age. But boy, he touched a lot of good people in a very positive way.
Yeah, Paget Brewster starred in the show's 6th season. She played the love interest, Kathy. I'm sure a lot of folks that were in college like me in the 90s remember that, tweeting or Xing. I'm so very sad to hear about Matthew Perry. He was lovely to me on Friends, and every time I saw him in the decades after, please read his book. It was his legacy to help. And the book was titled Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, and lots in there.
And I think even if you weren't a big Friends fan, you couldn't help but in reading the stories about his life over the last few years as he documented in his book, it it was just gut-wrenching, the struggles that he went through. And I think, it's probably a wise reminder that you never know what somebody is going through. But also, if you've ever been around people who have struggled with substance abuse, you couldn't help but admire. I mean, the guy, not only did you admire the fact that he had apparently overcome a lot of these things, but he dealt with it so forthrightly and very honestly. And he really was committed to telling that story to help other people, which is so admirable.
Well, and I think that's what's so sad about the opioid crisis in America, right? I mean, he was prescribed painkillers in 1997 from a jet ski accident. I mean, this was something he was given by doctors. I read that he spent $9 million trying to get sober. So, I mean, this is something he wanted to fight. He didn't want to be addicted to painkillers. And apparently his dad was an alcoholic as well. So clearly a lot of struggles growing up, which led him to that. So that's why my heart breaks for him and wanting to have tried to fight this, fight the opioid addiction, fight this addiction to painkillers. I loved Friends. I remember watching the season finale in college along with 52.5 million Americans. I mean, think about that number, right? So he's an icon, household name, and brought a lot of laughs to all of us. Yeah. So.
And condolences to his family, his friends, all his loved ones.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.